Education is expensive. These were the words of my physical education professor way back during my university days 7 years ago. Well, it's actually the truth, which is why a lot of adolescents and parents are struggling to pursue the goal of learning, especially within a country like the Philippines, where the usual group of families are on the grassroots level, which financial problems is their usual main issue. This situation became at its worst when the pandemic struck the whole world, resulting to the change of how education is being accessed now, wherein gadgets and the internet are seemingly the most effective way to obtain learning. Hence, it's not too surprising that families are putting their children's learning on hold until the situation changes for the better. These happenings can lead to the questions: is education important? Is it even worth it? Before answering the question, let me tell a story about someone I met 11 years ago when I was still in high school. This person and I just casually became friends because of our cleaning task on a typical school day. We ended up being together until we treated each other as best friends. As our friendship has progressed, the more I learned about his life situation. I could tell myself those moments that I am luckier than him because I was going to school without any monetary issues to worry about. My family isn't rich, but I could say that I did take our high school easier. Reason? You can name it. He was living with a relative who, in my knowledge, had reservations in taking him under their roof. His siblings have their own families to worry about. His father died when he was in elementary. Pretty tough, I know. These may be the reasons that made him take his education seriously. As his best friend, I can attest to this. I remember a time having a thick chemistry book which I brought to school for display. I never really used it for studying purposes, but he did. We were having a drill and he borrowed that book from me. While he was searching for the answer to a particular question, I actually gave that item up because I didn't know the answer and was very lazy to look it up. To my surprise, he actually found the right answer moments later. That one moment sunk so deep into me that I secretly admired him for his seriousness for such one question, and I can never forget it up to now. There was also a time that the two of us formed the group with three more people and we studied together for the upcoming exams and quizzes. I believe that it gave all of us, especially him, to have fun while learning. Summer of 2012, we graduated and went on our separate ways. I wasn't really that knowledgeable of his life, but the two of us still keep in touch. I immediately enrolled in a university after graduation, and he enrolled for a housekeeping course in TESDA. You might want to know how he used his housekeeping skills in real life. Well, he was employed by our former homeroom teacher as a housekeeper, in which there was an actual application of those skills. 2 years after, his beloved mother passed away, which might be the reason why he worked in a pub for a half year and ended up being swallowed by bad influences. Fortunately, something happened which led to his decision to take his path again in pursuing his higher education a year after. He went home to his family in Cagayan Valley and planted crops such as corn to have savings for his university expenses. I recall a time when he called me while I was making my own lesson plan for my university subject. He was panting and breathing so hard while he was harvesting his crops under the scorching sun. We greeted each other as usual and asked how's our lives are going. It was a year before my university graduation, so I told him that. He said that he was so jealous of me because I will have a diploma soon, unlike him who was still starting his way at that time. Of course, I cheered him up because it was the least I could do as a best friend. He also mentioned that he was scared that he's the only one who was not catching up with the progress of educational attainment. As for me, it's natural to have that kind of emotion because feeling that way gives the proof that we have to seriously give learning a priceless value, no matter how hard life is. Unfortunately for me, he knows this better than anyone else. During the time that I was still studying in my university, he worked his hardest to fund for his future. After 4 more years, I was scrolling around my Facebook account when I stumbled upon his picture post. He was sitting on a chair in an enclosure with walls painted with white, formally dressed underneath with a black bachelor's gown on top, holding his mortarboard while facing a camera with his facial expression, obviously saying, "Finally, I did it." It was the moment that I felt really proud of him and his achievements. Despite the difficult things that happened with his life, he managed to hit a home run, which I know is very gratifying, especially for him. He was late and didn't graduate at the same time with us, his high school batch, but he still did it. It's because he has set it as his life priority. Nowadays, we haven't been contacting that much because of our busy life, until now that he asked me to tell his life story in my perspective. The last time I spoke with him was he mentioned that he is teaching at a school in Cagayan. He is who is now because of his perseverance, and I'm happy to share his story as I somehow a living witness of it. So answering the question, is education important? Isn't even worth it? If it isn't, then we won't have a great teacher now like Juan P. Ogalde, right?